Hello, good morning and a warm welcome to Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Joining me this morning is senior journalist and former diplomat Bandula Jayasekara. Good morning, Bandula.
Good morning, Faraz.
And how are you today?
Good.
Excellent. And our guest this morning is former Foreign Minister and UPFA candidate for Colombo, Mr. Rohita Bogalagama. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Faraz.
And thank you for being on our show.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Bandula, there are promises being made by all parties. How are they going to pay for it? Government income is very low, apparently.
Yeah, that's we'll have to find out how are they going to raise this money. So that's a big question, and then the people also should question during the campaign. You are making promises, but how are you going to fulfill these promises?
That's right, because according to Du Gunasekara, the former chairman of COPE, he says that the income is about 11 to 12%. That's very low.
And let's say, so we are we are talking of good governance, we are talking of helping the masses, but can they keep these promises for us? So that's the big question where the voters have to think and decide on that.
I mean, we have come a long way from rice from the skies and all that sort of thing, but people need to be aware.
Yeah, that's right. That's important. I'm sure Mr. Gunasekara has come out with a very valid point, and he's been very honest about it.
Indeed. Another thing, even this station, we've been talking about a drug-free country, a drug-free parliament, and we have a story doing its rounds that the former First Family, or the former government of Mr. Rajapaksa, had freely associated with people now known to be in the drug trade or being charged with that. Is this mere politicking, or is it?
I would say, for us, like we discussed here, so there are so many new things are coming close to the election. So this is where we have to, look at all these with an open mind. It may be right, it may be wrong, but elections are nearing. So let's be very much educated and well informed.
Yes, I think because I don't think any politician would knowing that somebody is in this drug trade, would associate with a known drug kingpin or whoever.
Yeah, definitely. So, but that's what I say. The people. You could see the newspapers. However, so many things are coming out in the newspapers and in the media. So there's so much of rhetoric, but finally the voter will have to decide.
And in between all this electioneering and so on, we have a very important tender that is now being spoken of, and that is the supply of coal to Newsfirst.lk power station. I'm told the estimated value of this order is about 51 billion rupees. Apparently the chairman of the TEC refused to sit in on a meeting, indicating that there's some sort of problem going on. What do you think? Do you think that
something fishy somewhere?
It looks rather suspicious. But we must remember that, by the way, there was a lot of opposition to this Newsfirst.lk power station before, but the fortunes have changed. We have more or less got good, clean, regular power. And I'm told Newsfirst.lk is about 4 or 5 times cheaper than diesel power.
I like what you said, Farah. You said fortunes have changed. You talk of fortune.
Indeed, indeed. Let's ask this from you, Mr. Bogalagama. There are various people who challenge each other for debates. Champika Ranawaka has now said that he'd like to challenge Mahinda Rajapaksa for a debate. Do you think debates like this during elections are a good thing?
Obviously, I think there has to be public discussion on issues really concerning the people. Elections are for the people, for them to decide, and that's all about democracy. I welcome a debate on most important subjects, not on tribal issues, but on pertinent subjects that would guide the process for the nation. I think people should have various views getting expressed. This can only happen not in unilateral discussions but bilaterally, in a discussion where other side also has an equal opportunity to submit their views and let people decide. I think Newsfirst is all about letting people decide. But in that context, debate, let us see what the proposed subject is all about. And public debates will always educate the masses and also give an opportunity to have a better judgment on the issues with greater clarity. I think this is something for us I welcome, and is something that we must encourage. Instead of public political meetings costing so much of money, let the opposing candidates meet up on stage, discuss issues in town halls, in various public centers, and where with the participation of the intellectuality of the society, so that the questions can be thrown at them and there can be really hard stuff being put across.
Good. Bandula, we've never had a sort of US or British debate between the main candidates on TV or on radio even, have we in Sri Lanka?
I don't think so. You know, we have like our programs, but like we Mtrv series, certainly we have programs like that. But I think that's welcome. I mean, then, but only thing is what I feel for us is that the equals have to challenge each other. You know, like the contenders. You know, so you can't now. I have noticed that so many in the the present government, they are all challenging one person. That is Mahinda Rajapaksa. No, let's the equal. You know, let Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe challenge Mahinda Rajapaksa. It should be like that. So then people will decide. Let them use television and go for it.
Yes, that's true. But also, I suppose, when you there's no good somebody challenging some other person. They all want to challenge the person who will attract the most publicity.
Yeah, because they would get publicity by that.
That's right. So
coming here for us that yesterday I was on SLBC morning show at 8:30 with virtually a debate with our distinguished politician, Justice Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. And we both had on opposing sides, we exchanged views on matters, and that went on for 1 hour.
No blows.
In the sense that if the ones who respect others' views and respectable politicians come in for discussions, how can there be blows?
Faraz, even if they had exchanged blows, it was the radio. You would not see it.
Better.
So on radio.
Sound travels equally well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At the same time, there's a story about that the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission saying that the army were responsible for these deaths in Ratupassala, where there was this issue about water. I think, from a media point of view, from a PR point of view, that whole incident was spectacularly mishandled. We had a company being accused of contaminating the water basin, and that company has complied with the directions of then President, and I think they've stopped operations there. So that whole area is now must be suffering.
Yeah, definitely, and it's important to consult, everybody else, and see, if you go to a village for us, say it's for development, consult everybody like we do in normal life and have these. Then there would be lesser problems.
The other day we were wondering what's happened to CBK. Well, apparently she's back. Is that true?
And that's what I haven't heard her, I haven't seen her.
Right.
I don't know whether they're satellites are monitoring.
Well, we don't need satellites anymore because we've got, thanks to Kuksi Wijewardena, the Deputy Defence Minister, who consulted the President and has brought in Google balloons. And so internet will be far better for Sri Lanka. There's the other thing, we talk about corruption and so on. Sri Lankan Airlines, the national airline, has decided 8 months after nearly 8 months after the regime change, to build the presidential secretariat for 114 million rupees for Mr's voyages.
Yeah.
Good idea, bad idea, why now?
Yeah, that's
Why
my
not then?
question also. Why now? So because like you should practice, like electricity board is giving electricity, also you should pay, and then there should be some procedures laid down even for the future. That is what these are all government institutions. So it's still questionable, but I agree with you when you say why now. But it should be done, either way, like each company, if you owe somebody, you should pay and then sort it out and have proper procedures in this country. We lack that for us.
Talking about electricity, interestingly, I noticed that a proposal made by Champika Ranawaka, the former Minister of Power, and by the Minister of Rehabilitation, Mr. Swaminathan, that I think the people with displaced families in the northeast are being given free connections to restore power supply. Very encouraging.
Which is very good.
Very encouraging, isn't it?
Which is very good because they have suffered a lot more than anybody else.
And it's quite costly to have electricity restored.
Yeah, that's true, and we know the people in the north, they are really about education, they work hard, for years we know how much they have, worked, so I think that's very encouraging for us.
And keeping on the north, we have this story, story or information, that the Chief Minister in the north, Mr. Vigneswaran, has decided that said that he's going to be politically neutral during this polls.
Yeah.
What do you think his inspiration has been?
It looks like for us he's following the president. Maybe he would have watched the president, listening to President Mtrv, and he's trying to follow his example.
But that's great news, isn't it? That the president is inspiring other politicians, and maybe it augurs well.
Yeah, I don't know how the TNA would react to this for us, because he's was chief minister, was elected, so member of TNA. I don't know how they would react.
And I'd like to maybe former foreign minister Mr. Bogalagama can comment a bit about this. Now, this from before the elections, the presidential elections, there have been claims that we will not hand over MR and others to these international agencies on apparently on war crimes. Is this just a good soundbite, or is it in actual fact nobody is going to hand over anybody to anyone because we are a sovereign country?
Let's look at it this way, Paras, and who is saying this, that they are not going to hand over MR to the international probes on war crimes? Who is saying this?
Opposition.
Opposition.
Opposed to Mr. Rajapaksa.
That is the UMP.
Whoever we have, Rajita, we have all sorts of people.
Okay, fine.
Not only one.
Fair enough. So that means they are in the know that this demand will come for a probe on MR for war crimes.
Is it that they know, or is it just a good story to keep them in the news?
How can it be a good story for them in the event are they trying to claim credit for not handing over in a manner?
Perhaps
that will
that's
be
what it
so
is.
that means they are catering to the public sentiment in Sri Lanka, so that they can pitch high on that.
But I think the public sentiment is that we are not going to give our leaders, send them away anywhere.
Exactly. This is where we are all concerned. President Mahinda Rajapaksa is a national hero who fought the LTT, eliminated terrorism from Sri Lanka, and came on top in the whole world. Having been his foreign minister, I know it best, because the world acknowledged his contribution for the elimination of terrorism.
But is that right?
Now, in that context, today he's been probed, assuming that he's been probed, and the indications are likely that he can be probed, and emanating from Geneva resolution that is now due to come up again in September, that how will Sri Lanka, whoever is going to be in government, take this matter? Are they going to open the doors for an international probe on President Mahinda Rajapaksa, or are they going to seal it off and straight away say no war crimes were committed in Sri Lanka? Now, the position as foreign minister, former foreign minister, I take up is I was fully aware as to what was happening during the intense fighting that went on, and also how we countered terrorism. And there it was an humanitarian operation, and in that context there were no war crimes committed by anyone in Sri Lanka. Now, I would like the UMP to come out with that position to the world at large, where today they are in government, they hold a temporary assignment in government, though they are a minority party, and we like that to emanate from the government side, not from the civil society or others who are now laboring support for such a situation.
I think we must have an inquiry, don't you think, to get rid of these allegations? And then why is it then that these allegations are only about the last 2 or 3 months? Shouldn't it be about the whole thing?
Yeah, it should be, for all these years, because Sri Lanka, we suffered due to terrorism. There should be, and then you can't have one rule for Sri Lanka and another rule for another country. You can't do that. Let's be fair, and we are a small country, and we are trying to come out. Our people have suffered. I mean, irrespective, all nationalities have suffered. So let us, progress.
But if I may come in here, now I am totally against our sovereignty getting undermined and our being subjected to an oversight by the foreign powers, whatever source from which it emanates, and whatever duration of the probe or the period that they are going to cover in terms of an investigation, like how Bandul has correctly spelled out, let it come, but it can't come from outside. We are people of Sri Lanka, we have the mechanism, we have the strength, we have the process, we have the procedures well in hand. And this is not the first time that there were certain developments of this nature that took place in 1971 during the JP insurrection, 1989-90 during the JP second insurrection. Now the LTT has gone on for a while in Sri Lanka. But never did we open the doors for outside involvement towards looking at matters that were totally domestic, totally internal, and totally within the framework of the law of this country. Now that is where I stand in terms of any investigative process that is being advocated by bodies not centric with their Sri Lankan interest is concerned, but centric in terms of their moral judgment that they cast on the rest of the world, and thereby I would not like to permit that type of development. I am totally against that development.
What Mr. Bogalagamu just mentioned was interesting. He said that, Sri Lankans, we can sort this out. Don't need to go outside, in essence. But that then brings me into my almost pet subject. We went shopping for the governor of the central bank. There are 15,044,490 adults in this country who are over the age of, who are able to vote. And we couldn't find any one person out of that 15,044,490 to head our central bank. We had to go to Singapore.
That's sad.
It's sad, I think so. But anyway, that's only one little thing. Nepotism. Well, what's your stand on nepotism?
That is something I will not condone. It is something we have to condemn. And why should there be families getting built up in terms of your own kith and kin? And what is the purpose for that? It is against transparency, it is against principles of good governance. You have to make it very well known that one who is responsible for office can't build up empires in terms of family, the family members getting accommodated.
Mr. Bogalagamu, have you appointed, did you appoint your relatives when you were the foreign minister to any positions?
I had two of my relatives. One is at a secondary level, the other one is at the head of mission level, and that was after being considered the suitability of the candidate totally. The Singapore lady who held office came to be acknowledged so much so that the former president of Singapore, President Nader, first visit he made after retirement was to visit her back in Sri Lanka when she had finished her term, acknowledging the contribution she made for the bilateral ties development in Singapore. I'm quite proud of that, my choice being such. and I take full responsibility irrespective of my connection to the relationship, but her performance had been greatly admired and appreciated. And I can remember Mrs. Ashraf, who went to succeed her subsequently, called me on her return from presenting the credentials and said everyone in the government of Singapore was full of praise for her predecessor. So I think that's the credit that goes for my selection there. And the other person was in India, the Deputy High Commissioner, and he had been a distant relation, not a very close relation, but his merit had been the fact that he was able to, at a time when our relationship had been built up very much with India, he was an anchor there, who could have been, having access to very important sections of the Indian establishment. On meritocracy rather than on relationship.
So what you're saying is that they followed the procedure.
They followed totally the procedure, and it went through the parliamentary process of improving. And it was only my recommendation. The concurrence came from the Parliamentary Committee of High Post Selection, and they thought it's fit, and they performed so well, and they were continued. In fact, after I left office, so much so that they have served more than their due period.
But Mr. Mogolakam, the Foreign Ministry officials say that they were sent to look after your children in Singapore and New Delhi, who were there in Singapore and New Delhi.
Not necessarily, because the reason they were never staying in with my sister-in-law, so to say. He was very much independent, and he was an elder, my son, not very much dependent on the family provisions. And of course, my daughter was in India. It was a big concern for me. My daughter's security at that time, when I was battling against LTT, and I couldn't have left my daughter, who was a medical student at that time, now she's a doctor, left in the just open. I had a concern there, fair enough, and I exercised that concern purely because it's my responsibility to ensure the safety of my child. And I had that, but it was never dependent on anyone's dwelling or anyone's succor or support that was extended.
And Mr. Bogolakam, also they say that, or you are credited of having given the dead rope, or dead rope in quotes, of hosting the Commonwealth Summit to President Rajapaksa, that you are credited for giving this dead rope.
Why did Bandula? Can you explain? Why is it you are connoting it with a death rope?
Yeah, that's what I said, that you gave, and I'm sure for us.
Let me come on to that. Now, having battled terrorism, and we were battling terrorism at that time, and what was needed to get the support of the West mostly. Commonwealth is famous to be known as a grouping of the Western powers, so to say. Though Australia and New Zealand is not in the West but Far East, but still they are the dominant partners of the Commonwealth. They are the pillars of the Commonwealth, the four pillars. New Zealand, UK, United Kingdom, Canada and Australia. Now, having said that, there are 54 other countries. So in 2007, when we met in Kampala, I thought the best strategy in order to get them recognize Sri Lanka is to get our president as the chairman of the Commonwealth. So that means we bring a grouping of 54 countries. Never before it has happened for Sri Lanka. So I thought that it's a good strategy to adopt. And I proposed at the Commonwealth, with the cooperation of my colleagues, the other foreign ministers, that let us host Sri Lanka Summit in 2011. Now, by that time, we are right in the thick of the war. 2007, when we met in Kampala, in Uganda, we were in the thick of the war. Then they noted it. They didn't approve it, but they said, okay, the proposal has come. Then when we met again in, I wonder whether Bandula went for that mission that time, but we met in one of the Caribbean islands, the second summit in 2009. And the delegation, the president was not there, Mtrv Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake was there heading the delegation. I was the foreign minister. There, when I proposed it in 2009, the concerns were getting expressed by Gordon Brown and Australian Prime Minister whether Sri Lanka is ready to host it in 2011. And because we are now succeeded in battling terrorism, we have won the war against terrorism, then it was a big battle. Till 12 o'clock in the night, I was arguing with the foreign ministers to get their consent, their concurrence, that Sri Lanka is now ready to host the summit for 2011. Then a compromise was worked out, because Australia wanted a summit of the Commonwealth before the elections by, I think at that time, it was the Brad was the Prime Minister of Australia.
Julia Gillard.
No.
In 2011 was
2009 was Brad.
Yeah.
And he came personally to me and said, Minister, let us have the summit for Australia. I said, sir, let us have it. In the event we agree for Sri Lankan summit for 2013, I would consent to waive the 2011 development for Sri Lanka. Then Kamlesh Sharma, being the Secretary General of the UN, then Gordon Brown personally spoke with me for about 15 minutes to say, okay, we'll assure you that we'll give the summit for you in 2000. So that was a big acknowledgement of our being fit to be the chair of the Commonwealth. Now
So
now with that,
yes.
then I said, sir, I would like you to propose, if that is the case, for Australia 2011, Sri Lanka 2013 to host the summit. He said, I will do that. And then I have been convinced him to propose at the head of state summit. He proposed for Sri Lanka in 2013. So having won for the summit for Sri Lanka, that was an acknowledgement and an endorsement of the rightful acts of the government of Sri Lanka. Now that was after winning the war. Now they are talking, some sections may be talking about certain war crimes probes needed, the resolutions in Geneva, etc. But the time they proposed Sri Lanka unanimously for 2013, that was totally an endorsement for the actions we had pursued the time that we were fighting terrorists in Sri Lanka.
And in a word, Chogam was good for Sri Lanka.
Absolutely, that is a platform you get across both to the west, to the east, to the rest of the world with a lot of countries in Africa. I think our ties with Africa got started developing because Zuma and the other presidents coming from Africa, they were all part of the Commonwealth, and also India, Pakistan. You look at the configuration.
And the costs justifiable?
What is the cost? Now, unfortunately, I was not the foreign minister the time the summit was
Yes,
held.
overlooking at it, what do you think?
I would come in this way. Costs must meet the ends for which it is created. Now, in the event they have had any excesses, I don't agree that the excesses should have been right. In the event they were within the budgets that were allocated, approved, I think they went for a supplementary estimate to Parliament, and if they had performed well, and the goodwill you built out of it, and the number of visitors that arrive in Sri Lanka, how they look at Sri Lanka, all these are factors that must be brought in to justify whether you have achieved the objective. But what is needed is, now having been, we still be at the chair, Bandula, we are still, President Maithripala
is thank you, Mr. Bogalagama, for joining Newsline and by Newsfirst today, and we hope to welcome you back to our station very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And Bandula, as usual, my thanks to you for being here today.
Thank you, Varas.
On this wonderful day. And talking about elections and the need to elect good, responsible, committed politicians, committed to you and to our country, I thought I'd leave you with this. What is a genius? Someone said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And on that note, I'll wish you a very good morning and God bless you.